Welcome to the debate. Today we aren't just looking at a business plan, we are digging into a roughly 3.3 billion euro gamble on national pride. We're looking at the Give Back to Algeria initiative, a proposal outlined by Tufik Bakshi. This is a blueprint that claims it can, crowdsource nation building, raising billions in just 7.5 years to fund everything from supermarkets and apartments to swimming pools across all 69 wilayas or provinces of Algeria.
It is a massive proposal, I'll give you that, but frankly, ambitious is a very polite word for what I'm seeing here. The central question isn't whether Algeria needs development. Of course it does. The question we have to answer today is this. Can a single citizen-led conglomerate actually pull this off? I mean, can you really run a nonprofit guardian and a massive commercial developer at the same time without the whole thing just collapsing under its own weight?
I take the view that this is exactly the kind of structural shakeup the system needs. GBT Give Back to Algeria. It isn't just charity. It's an economic engine. It's an attempt to take the fragmented goodwill of the diaspora, people sending money home here and there, and channel it into a transparent, sustainable machine. It honors that history of sacrifice by building a future that actually pays for itself.
And I'm here to pour a little cold water on that fire. I've looked at the numbers, and I have deep, deep reservations. We're talking about launching dozens of complex, distinct industries all at the exact same time. The logistical feasibility is questionable, and the financial projections, well, to be honest, they feel like a fantasy.
Let's start with the foundation, because if you miss this, you miss the emotional core of the project. Bakhti anchors this entire initiative in what he calls the spirit of sacrifice. He draws a straight line from Emir Abdel Khader's resistance in the 1830s through the 1.5 million martyrs of the War of Independence right up to today. The argument is that the struggle for self-determination hasn't ended. It's just shifted from the battlefield to the economy.
The history is powerful, absolutely, and that narrative of resilience is something every Algerian connects with. But we are discussing a business plan here. You can't pay construction vendors with historical resonance. You need cash flow.
Right? But that spirit is what drives the structure, and the structure is where this gets really interesting. This is the two-entity model, and it's designed specifically to address that trust deficit we see so often. You have the National Association, which is a nonprofit. Its only job is to be the watchdog, the guardian of the funds. Then, legally separate, you have Al Amana Development, a for-profit company that actually builds the stuff.
So you're separating the conscience from the cash.
Exactly. It separates stewardship from execution. The association holds the shares of the company on behalf of the people. It asks for a reference contribution of 25 euros a month from 1.5 million contributors. I mean, that's the price of a few coffees to solve housing shortages and supply chain breaks.
See, 25 euros sounds small, but aggregating that to over 3 billion euros, that is an unprecedented fundraising feat. And even if the money shows up, just look at the scope. They want to launch supermarkets, hotels, apartment blocks, logistics centers, electric buses.
But the scope is wide because the inefficiencies are everywhere. You can't just fix one thing.
But that's the trap. It's a wish list, not a focused strategy. Raising the money is one thing. Spending it wisely across that many sectors is another. The government's model, this integrity by design, it looks sound on paper. I like the idea of the nonprofit holding the for-profit accountable. But the operational reality of managing, everything from agriculture to high-tech logistics, it requires distinct expertise. You cannot run a library the way you run a supermarket. By trying to do everything, you risk doing nothing well.
I think you're missing the synergy here. Let's look at the core economic engine, the supply chain strategy. The source material hits the nail on the head regarding the current problem in Algeria, the middlemen.
The classic intermediary argument.
It's a real issue. Produce changes hands 4, maybe 5 times before it hits the shelf. The farmer gets squeezed, the consumer pays too much, and half the food rots in transit. GBTA proposes a farm-to-shelf model. They plan to build logistics and distribution centers to buy directly from farmers. They use modern stock management, cold chain tech. It's not just opening a store, it's fixing the plumbing of the food market.
I get the theory. Vertical integration is great if you can pull it off. But have you really considered the headache of that supply chain? The plan assumes revenue starts flowing by the end of year 2.
That is aggressive, I admit, but it's necessary to prove the concept.
It's not just aggressive, it borders on impossible. In that tiny window, they want to open 50 supermarkets. 50! While simultaneously setting up their own red meat supply chains and aquaculture farms.
To control their costs? Yes. If you control the supply, you control the margin.
But think about the operations. Managing retail is one complex skill set. Organizing smallholder farmers into cooperatives is a completely different beast. It's socially noble, sure, but it is slow, painstaking work. You have to build trust with thousands of individual farmers. By trying to build the retail end and the supply end at the exact same moment, you risk crushing the operating company before they sell a single carton of milk. It's a logistical burden that would break an established multinational, let alone a startup.
I think you're underestimating the multiplier effect. These aren't just businesses, they are social stabilizers. Let's move to infrastructure, specifically the apartment buildings, which make up 20% of the funding. This isn't speculative real estate for the rich. It targets essential workers, teachers, healthcare staff, people who are priced out of the market.
Affordable housing is a noble goal. I don't dispute the need for that at all.
But look at the value add. These aren't just dormitories. The plan includes after-school clubs inside these complexes to foster education. It solves 2 problems at once: housing and youth development. And there's a huge emphasis on restoration and preservation. They plan to buy old plots in historic quarters, the Kasbahs, and rebuild them with cohesive architecture. It preserves heritage while increasing density. It's a holistic approach.
Okay, I love the idea of restoring the Kasbahs. Who doesn't? But I come at this from a different angle, the balance sheet. I'm looking at the financial projections in the source material, and this is where I really get stuck. The business plan assumes a flat 20% profit margin across all sectors.
It's a target blended margin. Some will be higher, some will be lower.
But the book applies that logic broadly. A flat 20% margin for supermarkets, which are a razor-thin margin business, is already optimistic, but applying that same 20% profit expectation to libraries and swimming pools, that is where I lose faith in the math.
Why?
Because facilities like neighborhood swimming pools and libraries are public services for a reason. They are capital-intensive and low revenue. They burn cash. They don't generate 20% profit. If they do, they're probably not affordable for the average person.
They generate revenue through memberships, events. The idea is to make them self-sustaining.
But think about the tension there. To achieve a 20% profit on a library while keeping housing affordable for a teacher, the math simply doesn't add up. You cannot maximize social benefit and financial return at the same time in every single sector. The plan relies on these profits to fund expansion. If the libraries and pools become money pits, which they likely will, the whole reinvestment model just stalls.
I'm not convinced, because that treats these entities in isolation. It's a portfolio. The commercial success of the hotels and the high-end retail can subsidize the community projects. The Elegance dining chain creates the surplus that keeps the library lights on.
That's a heavy burden to place on a hotel chain that doesn't even exist yet. And speaking of which, let's talk about tourism and cultural revitalization.
It's a huge opportunity. They're allocating 10% of funding to a chain of hotels. Algeria has immense untapped tourism potential. The Sahara, the coast, Roman ruins like Timgad, and the branding is specific, hotels reflecting regional architecture. Berber designs in Tamanrasset, Mediterranean styles in Iran. This could unlock a whole new sector for the economy.
I agree the potential is there. But again, look at the execution. The plan lists every type of accommodation you can imagine. Luxury, boutique,